we are so vulnerable to influence. Human beings are so, I mean, this is why cults exist. This is why people are willing to be religious martyrs and blow themselves up. And which, by the way, like, why do they do that? Why do they get kids to wear suicide vests? Because you can't convince a 55-year-old guy to do it. 55 guy with a job and a family and a lot of interests and good friends. Tough to get him to wear that suicide vest. Right. He's like, what? What am I doing? I'm going to a mall? What the fuck?
So
no, why am I doing that? I'm going to heaven and I'm going to get 72 virgins. Can you show me these virgins? Like, is there a fucking... What happened to them? How do these poor virgins wind up in heaven just getting raped by this 55-year-old guy who blew himself up? Like, this is fucking insane.
I know.
Well, you can't get adults to believe that, but you can get children to believe that. So we don't want to, like, take that same ability to influence and then just transfer it over to children. And
I'm not quite sure why the human mind is so fragile. I've asked myself that so many times. And this is going to sound totally off-piste here, but you brought up demons and what have you, and I just watched that. I didn't read the book, so forgive me, but I watched the documentary on the book, Chaos, on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, I read the book.
Okay. Are you not completely... I cannot wrap my head around how Manson got seemingly normal people to commit this kind of murder. And when you listen to these women talk about it, they're like, and then I stabbed her 15 times and I felt the knife go into her hip bone. And she looked at me and said, I'm dead. And that, like, no emotion. What did you do to this woman's mind? And you can't say she's an outlier, right? Because he was able to convince the group of people. Mm-hmm. I cannot understand this kind of...
Well, that's
fragility.
Complex.
But what is that?
That's MK Ultra.
But is it not? Is it that? Do you think it's that?
No, 100%. That's Jolly West. Jolly West was the CIA operative who visited Manson in jail. He's also the guy that visited Jack Ruby after he shot Kennedy, and then Jack Ruby starts saying, "I'm seeing demons, and the Jews are on fire." And Jack Ruby didn't have a history of mental illness like that, like complete psychotic breakdowns, but he did after Jolly West visited him in jail. This. Yeah, there's real documentation about those experiments. One of them is Operation Midnight Climax. So the CIA was operating brothels, and they were operating brothels where they would have two-way mirrors, and they would be behind the mirrors, and these prostitutes who were working for the CIA would give the Johns LSD, and then they would observe them. This is all document.
I knew a little bit about MK Ultra, obviously, and that they were using psychedelics to influence people and try to gain mind control.
LSD in particular, yeah.
Okay, so here's my question, though. This is what I find so fascinating. Do you think that the LSD simply accelerated that mental vulnerability or the ability to warp someone's mind? Because when you tell people now you're going to perform a sex change on a child, they think that's a good idea. And I'll tie it back to one thing that also is seemingly unrelated, but everyone's outraged about RFK. He's not a doctor. Oh my God, he's trying to get to the root of autism and he's misguided about it. Where was your outrage when Xavier Becerra, who's not a doctor, wanted to remove all age limits for sex changes on kids, whether surgery or not, the medicalization component that we talked about? Like, that to me is a group psychosis. I wonder, to get an adult to, I'm like, where's your outrage and your concern about this? Because this is batshit crazy.
Right.
And nobody said a word. Nobody cared. It went completely under the radar. And I'm just wondering if the ability to capture someone's mind in the way that they did through these CIA studies, did LSD simply accelerate a vulnerability that's already pre-existing, and you're watching the brainwashing of people go on over the course of decades? Because if you said this to a person, arguably when in Obama's first term, when he ran on gay marriage, that you were going to run sex changes on children in the year 2024, people would have lost their friggin' mind.
Right.
So it's just a complete... It's just, they must have been brainwashed, though.
Yeah, it is brainwashing. And cults, we all know that cults are real, right? We all know about the Manson family. We all know about Jim Jones. We all know about cults. And we know that human beings are very vulnerable to group influence. Now, when you have someone that's actually being trained by people that are psychologists and that understand influence, and then also trained in using the implementation of LSD on these people, one of the things that Manson would do is he would pretend to take LSD, and then he would give it to them and then influence them while they were under the influence and he was sober. And this was all learned through the Harvard LSD studies, which, by the way, created the Unabomber. Ted Kaczynski was a part of the Harvard LSD studies.
Oh my God, how do I not know this?
Yeah, well,
I know he was a genius.
Yeah,
There
was a bunch of things wrong with him. First of all, when he was a baby, he was severely ill, and they put him in some sort of an infirmary, and he didn't have any human touch for months. Wow. For months. They like when he cried and he's in his crib, they left him there. His brother talked about it. There's a documentary on Netflix about him, and his brother talked about, like, even before the Harvard LSD studies, he was like really fucked up, complete lack of empathy. And just
sociopath.
Yeah, complete sociopath as a young man. And it would express itself when he would experience rejection from women. He would have like violent reactions to that rejection and write them horrific letters and torture them and yell at them.
Jesus, it's so scary.
And then he goes through the Harvard LSD studies, which a part of his particular studies was humiliation. So he would be under the influence and they would humiliate him and they would abuse him and try to get him to a certain state of mind. So then this guy goes off to Berkeley, becomes a professor, and his whole idea is to just make enough money so that he can implement this program. Here's what's crazy about his ideas. He's kind of right.
Okay.
So he's kind of right, and he thinks that technology is going to replace human beings. Like, he sees this through all of his acid trips, that human beings are going to be replaced. And we probably are.
Yeah.
We probably are going to be replaced by AI.
It's
we
happening.
probably are going to be replaced by synthetic life that we create. And we're facilitating that with our reliance on technology. Have you ever dreamed of being your own boss or turning your side hustle into a full-time business? Well, Shopify makes it ridiculously easy. Whether you're selling gym gear, digital products, or even your own brand of supplements, Shopify has everything you need to build, manage, and grow your online store. You don't need to be a tech genius. With drag and drop tools and stunning templates, you can have your store live in minutes. Plus, you can sell everywhere, from Instagram and TikTok to Amazon, all from one dashboard. And here's the best part, you can try it for free. That's right, no risk, just pure
and
potential.
Sell out in seconds.
Click the link in the description to start your Shopify journey
Partnered
today.
with the best
Who knows?
commerce platform.
Your side hustle could be the next big thing.